Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's CASAvlog. I'm Cheryl Holmes, Director of Marketing Communications at Casacom. Now you'll notice I'm speaking to you today from my home, and this is the reality for many people across the country as we do our part to stop a global pandemic. So in this rather special CASAvlog, today I'm going to be talking to you about how to maintain your internal and external communications during this crisis. Now, we're now working under really unique circumstances. Not only are people trying to learn how to adapt to remote work, we're also trying to figure out how to adapt to remote interactions with our coworkers. And many businesses seem almost paralyzed with fear, unable to communicate with their stakeholders out of fear of saying the wrong thing. Interestingly, about 35% of Canadians surveyed actually want companies to communicate what they are doing regarding their COVID-19 avoidance tactics. In this time of world crisis, staying silent is really not an option. There is a need for thought leadership, and companies must not overlook the importance of communicating in a way that reassures their employees and addresses the needs of their external stakeholders. 90% of people worldwide want companies to safeguard the health and the financial security of their employees and their stakeholders. So it's really important that businesses and that business leaders show that they're addressing the needs of both of these groups. One thing you could do is consider having your CEO launch a vlog, a podcast, or host an open-ended town hall that really addresses the needs of both of these groups and that helps to fill that human gap that many of us are experiencing as we adopt these social distancing practices. Now, any content created during this time really has to have value. It has to fill a need. It has to answer questions. It has to bring comfort to people on the receiving end of it. And companies have to pause and assess whether or not their content is addressing these factors as they move forward with their communications. So today, I'm going to show you and your organization some different ways on how you can communicate and create engaging content even remotely during this time. Even when we're keeping our physical distance, we can still be present in each other's daily lives by creating video content. So while we might not be able to have a 10-person camera crew down at a city park for an advertisement, we can still create engaging and informative content that keeps our messages top of mind. One thing you can do is really just scrap the fancy cameras. Even a vlog like this recorded on a cell phone can still provide value. You also don't want to be a talking head. If you want to have a message from multiple people, you can create that with people in different spaces and edit it together in a really fun and unique way. If you want to scrap people on camera altogether, then another thing you can do is create an animated video. So you can use photos, infographics, animated design, or on-screen text to create images and content, I should say, that really helps to inform your viewers, your audiences, and keep them up to date on all the things that are important to your business and are important to their needs. Engage your audience with remote podcasts. Now, this is a really great tool to speak not only to your internal audiences and your employees, but also to share thought leadership with professionals in other industries. So a really good way to do this is actually to get a microphone with a USB. So that helps to create a really clean, clear, and crisp sound, and it helps to mitigate any external noise. You can also download a lot of free editing softwares that allow you to create this kind of product a lot easier than you can think. So one example of that is called Zencastr. It's a software that allows you to edit your audio on two different lines so that you can have a really clean, clear distinction between your two speakers, or your more speakers if you have more than that. And finally, add in a little bit of post-production, add in a little bit of sound, and you will really keep your audiences engaged throughout the podcast. If your company hasn't yet implemented a social media strategy, now is the time to do so. Since the start of this pandemic, Canadians are now visiting websites 10% more, and they're staying on websites 14% longer. In total, 65% of Canadians said that a brand's response to the crisis today is really going to impact how they interact with and whether they purchase from that brand in the future. So what you should be doing as a company is thinking about shifting away from that old content strategy and those pre-programmed campaigns and focus on what really matters right now. Put your employees first. Celebrate your heroes at your company and your team stories. be really helpful in this era of information overload. So share useful links, help to distill information for people, do surveys, and then later address those surveys about what really matters to your audience on social media. And then finally, consider private social media groups. So a private Facebook group, for example, could be really useful for your stakeholders, where they can engage and interact amongst each other and help each other out. And it can also be a really good opportunity for your internal employees. Think about, for example, hosting a Facebook Live with your CEO on a private Facebook group. For some organizations right now, projects are happening in slow motion, and what their teams were focusing on a month ago are really no longer the priorities right now. So this is a really good time for companies to rethink their business strategies. And with the chance, as we said, of people going onto your website right now even higher, it's a really good time to add all of that missing content to your website that you've been meaning to do forever and you really just haven't had the chance to do. Another thing that you can do is revisit and rethink your website's brand positioning if needed, and also determine whether or not you need a redesign overall. Even in this time of social distancing, businesses and business leaders really need to focus on maintaining that precious link of human interaction that's so important right now with all of their stakeholders through thoughtful communications. Thank you so much for your time today. We'll see you again for another CASAvlog.